Well, good morning and welcome to the Big G Up here today on 2XX 98.3 FM. I am Davey J. Steeplechase, and it is a very exciting January morning because it is an Olympic year. Rio this year, 2016. That song dedicated to our guest, of course, that was Duran Duran, if you didn't know. Duran Duran with their song Rio. We have a super special guest. We're super excited because we have Olympian, three-time Commonwealth Games participant, as well as 8 times national champion in the 400 metres hurdles. We have Miss Lauren Wells. Lauren, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great, thank you.
Excellent. So glad that you're here. As a sports show, we want to make sure that we're supporting local athletes on their road to Rio, and you're definitely one of those people on your road to Rio. You're basically in the front seat of the car on the bus. You're driving the bus and picking the tunes, I expect. All good?
Yeah, no, it's all good. And yes, I'm as local as it comes, proud local Canberra girl. And I've kind of already booked my seat, on that bus to Rio at this stage, and just have a few more races to get through this season to really, cement that spot on the team. And yeah, August is coming around very quickly. Very quickly
indeed. So as part of that, and in this year, the Big G Up, every now and then we're going to have our road to Rio. Right, it sounds like it's been stolen before. We'll think of something that's a bit better. It's the Rio countdown. So basically every now and then we're going to try and talk to some people who are going to the Olympics, who are involved in the Olympics, who are involved any way, shape or form, and get their opinion about how they're going and that kind of stuff. So this is the very first of that series. Lauren, well done. You're the first one there.
Awesome.
That's not too bad. Another win for you.
It's always good to be first.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No good being down the back. First is where it is. The shiniest medals at the front. Lauren, good to see you here. Thanks for coming in again. We are here on 2XX, the Big G Up on 98.3 with Miss Lauren Wells. Oh, Mrs. Lauren Wells, sorry. No miss anymore about it. You've been married for quite a little time as well. And you were telling us before that your husband was quite an athlete as well as in his day. So, yeah. So it says you kept it in the genes, sporting family. So once the games are finished, I can imagine your children are going to be super people, superheroes. Exactly.
Hopefully it doesn't cancel each other out.
No, well, that's a good point. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it certainly is. Mate, tell us a little bit about how you got into athletics and what is it about athletics that drives you and is your love?
Well, as a kid, growing up here in Canberra, my brother Stephen and I were always really active and always in the backyard, playing with the kids in the street. And my parents, Kerry and Neil, have always been and remain to be so supportive of whatever we've chosen to do in our lives. And through that, I was able to choose just about any sport I wanted growing up. And I started doing little athletics at Corroboree in Dixon when I was 5, and I did do a lot of other sports along the way, but now that I look back, athletics was the one thing that I constantly did.
Yep.
I think the appeal for me was that every Saturday morning you could rock down to the Oval, hang out with your friends, do all these cool fun events. You got to run, jump, throw, walk, sprint, distance. Like there was just everything. There was something for everyone, and every week the program was different. And you got to do hurdles as well. And at Corroboree, they had that on the program every week. So it was something I was always exposed to. But growing up, I never imagined or dreamt that I'd become an Olympian. It was never something that was on my radar. I just enjoyed doing it, and that was it basically. But when I sort of got to around 13, 14 years old, my parents asked if I wanted to represent ACT, and I went to some tryouts and made the ACT team, and that was really exciting, a little bit unexpected, I suppose, for me. And around that time, I'd just started coaching with or training with my coach, Matt Beckenham, who is a Queanbeyan local, Sydney 2000 Olympic representative in the 400 hurdles as well. So he was just starting out his coaching business, Matty B Department, and I, linked up with him in December 2002, and I'm still working with him now. So we've just gone over 13 years working together. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Spent half my life hanging out with Matty, and that's been amazing. And that one experience at ACT level just snowballed into, I guess, what my career is today. And it's been incredible.
No, exactly right. I think it is when you get to that sort of that doorway of the representative scene. You get picked for a couple of state teams or a school team or a regional team, depending on how and how it works in your area. And then it just triggers something. So, you get exposed to higher competition. You think, well, I'm not as good as I think I am, or I'm better than I thought I was. But you also get those links to the coaching as well. So all of a sudden, the coaching that you've learnt, which may have been anything from just get out there and run, do your best, to try and do this, tuck your elbows in if you can, and get your head down, that kind of stuff, right through to, hey, look, when you take off from here, how about you try and do this? So it just seems that that's a trigger. So it seems natural from there. So all the other sports fell by the wayside at about that time as well, is that?
Yeah, so basically it came down to basketball or athletics. Obviously on the court, I was one of the taller, faster ones, so did quite well within my team. And I did really enjoy playing. I just didn't have that fire when it came to possibly representing ACT. And I think for me, I've always been very intrinsically driven, very internally motivated, and I always like to be accountable for my results. So sometimes I'd get a bit frustrated with other sports if, I was one of the better ones and I felt like I was carrying the team a little bit, but they also got the accolades. So for me, I think it was always going to be athletics. I can be responsible for what I've done out on the track, and as much coaching and help and advice Maddie gives me, it's still down to me on the day. And I've got less than a minute to get around that track and get everything right. So that's sort of where I started to really concentrate on my athletics. And that one experience representing ACT, I didn't even do that well in terms of placing. I think I finished 12th out of 15 girls. We were doing like a 5-event competition over the weekend, but I did 4 PBs out of the 5 events, and I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. So for me personally, I had performed at my absolute best on the day, and whilst I didn't win, I did, I guess, for myself. So that really, I think, sparked that fire, and everything's just, really gone from there.
I was going to say, and in terms of sparking that fire, you're talking about your 13 on the, on the cusp of 14 type thing. You represented at the Nationals at about 16 or something, didn't you? You started very young. So that fire really did spread, and it certainly engulfed you in such a way that you're able to step onto that national stage at 16 and do extremely well.
Oh, absolutely. It really moved quite quickly from there once I had probably a year of training under my belt with Maddie. I ran my first 400 hurdle race here in Canberra and ran okay. I was so raw, like I had just learnt how to hurdle on both legs. I could always hurdle one leg. Maddie had to teach me the other side just so I was more versatile. Had a handful of races here and qualified for the all schools nationals, and went away to nationals, ran a 3-second PB and got the silver medal. And I mean, that was a huge shock, but really exciting. And I think it really cemented the fact that I'd chosen the right event for me. And excuse me, it just, it started something that I never really thought was possible. It's not an event that's commonly run either. There's not a lot of exposure to 400 hurdles until you do get to that national level. And after all schools, I qualified for the World Youth Championship, so under 18s, and went on to win the silver medal there. So I was the second best under 18 400 metre hurdler in the world. And that was just awesome. It was the most incredible experience. And earlier that year, I had become the youngest ever female to win the 400 metre hurdle open title, and I was just 16 years old.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it was pretty awesome.
No, exactly right. And you've backed it up since with another 7 or 8 of those to go along with it. And you've also snuck in what's it, under 23s national championship in that event as well, under 21s as well.
Oh, there's been a few along the way, but the 8 national titles is obviously very special to me.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been a few nationals in between where I've come away with a silver or a bronze, or not run just due to scheduling. But 8 national titles is not something I ever thought I would achieve. And when I won my national title last year, it put me as having the most wins in the women's 400 hurdles. So I surpassed Debbie Flintoff-King, who obviously won the gold medal in the 88 Olympics for the 400 hurdles. So to go past, an athlete of that caliber is pretty cool.
Exactly right. Well, you certainly deserve it with the hard work that you've put in over those years with Maddie B. And again, record books, they're a nice thing to do. But again, getting your personal best out is where it's at, making sure that you've done everything that you need to do to get through that race. Regardless of where you finish, you can think, right, well, I'm here, but I can do better by doing this. I can go a little bit faster by doing that. I can jump a little bit higher if I do this. So those things, there's always something to improve. And I don't think you can get to the point where even the best, I believe, Usain Bolt, I'm pretty sure he'd be sitting there going, well, if I do this, I might be able to get a bit quicker. There's always that sort of thinking involved.
Well, absolutely. There's always something to improve on, something to do better, especially in the 400 hurdles. It's such an event where there's technical aspects, there's endurance aspects, there's lactic aspects. It really encompasses all aspects of track and field. And you don't always get everything right. And
Yeah.
because you have to get your steps in between the hurdles absolutely spot on, otherwise your whole race can go down the drain basically. So whilst it looks amazing when we execute it properly to, the naked eye, we often will be running and know whether we've done something right or if we can improve on something. So that's the main driving force for me at the moment, is that I have that feeling that I can still run faster than what I have and still achieve more than what I've already achieved. So I think until you get to that day where you don't have that feeling anymore, just keep going.
Exactly right. All right. Well, we are going to good. So, Lauren, preparations, Rio's coming up. You, like you said, you're on the bus, you're ready to go. The excitement's starting to build. The first athletes have been named from the athletic side of stuff. It's all happening. So what happens from here? So as soon as you leave the studio, tell us about what happens between now and August.
Well, my immediate future will be my final session of the week up at the AIS track straight after my studio duties here. But basically training as usual for the next couple of months. We'll start to add in some racing. So as I mentioned before, when Dick was on the line, I'll have my first 400 hurdle race at the end of the month on the 29th of January, just up in Canberra. Compete again the following weekend at the state championships, which are here.
Yep.
And then the big one for us here in Canberra is the Canberra Track Classic. So your Sally Pearsons of Australia, all of our top athletes will be coming to Canberra. Our track here is fast, the weather is good, and everybody loves to come here to compete. So that's the 20th of February is our big one here. So I'm really looking forward to putting on a good show, obviously, in front of the home crowd. And I love racing here in Canberra, so making the most of the conditions. We then go to Melbourne and Sydney to race in their equivalent track classics before everything culminates at the end of March at our national championships. So looking to add title number 9 to the tally for me at nationals.
Yep.
And that will really cement my place on the team. And immediately after nationals, Athletics Australia will release their first round of nominations for the Olympics. So obviously wanting to get my name on that list and just make it absolutely official that I am going to Rio.
Yep.
And then after that, we'll just stay here and do some prep training and then look at heading overseas, probably somewhere in June, head to Cologne in Germany, base there for a couple of weeks and get in some competition.
Yep.
It's good to race the girls that I'll be racing at the Olympics in preparation, just so I know what I'm in for. And it's good to run with girls that are actually faster than me, because here in Australia I don't have a lot of competition, so it's a lot different overseas racing than the big girls.
Yeah. In terms of that, internationally, who are the competitors that you need to keep an eye on? Who are the ones who are going to pull you along and basically test your mettle and see where you're at?
Well, it's a tough question actually, because the women's 400 hurdles is still a relatively new event, in the international program, and it's always improving. So girls are coming from everywhere now once they learn how to hurdle and they can run on the flat. But the current world champion from Beijing last year is a Czech Republic girl. So she will be the one to beat. She had a good Olympic campaign in London in 2012, so I think she'll be at the top of her game again this year. The Jamaicans and the Americans are always quite strong, but generally the Europeans are getting up there as well. Looks like there may not be any Russians there, and the current Olympic champion for my event is a Russian, so I'm certainly not complaining if they won't be out there on the track.
Rio will present a totally different sort of occasion. In preparation for that, have you guys been given any advice in the lead up? Is it a case of you doing your own research, going, right, well, I know there's Carnival, I'm going to have a great, it's not on at the same time, but I'm going, it sounds like a good party place, of Copacabana Beach and the swimming and the bikinis and all of that kind of stuff. Is there, but there is also that flip side, that dark side, where there is a lot of crime as well. How do you prepare mentally for what's going on there? Is it a case of just being cocooned in that village and sort of saying, right, well, we're going to stay here, focus on what we're doing, and if we get to sightsee, we get to sightsee? Yeah,
look, personally, the athletics is in the second week of the Olympics, and the athletic team will be coming in waves. So we'll be based in Miami before the Olympics, and we'll be staying only in Rio for 4 nights before we actually compete. So if you're at the very end of the program, you'll still be in Miami until a couple of nights before you actually race. So I think that Athletics Australia are doing that to ensure that we keep our mind in the game, keep our focus. And the village is an interesting place. You are in your own little bubble, which I found in London. You kind of forget what's going on with the rest of the world. And I think Rio could be the same. And like you say, a bit of a party town, but it's something that only comes around every 4 years. So it's certainly not something that I want to have a bad performance or risk performing badly because I want to go and sun myself on the beach.
Yeah.
For me, I keep my priorities in check, and Rio's always going to be there. And if I want to go back for a holiday, I can. I think at this stage, I'll be coming back on the chartered flight with all the rest of the Australian teams straight after the games finish.
Yep.
It is my second Olympics, and I'm so grateful I had the London experience because that was just incredible. But Rio is all about business for me, and I want to achieve my absolute best, and I don't want anything to compromise that. And we don't work as hard as we do to, put that goal at risk, I suppose. So I'll still enjoy it for what it is, but I will be trying to keep everything as normal as possible, keep my prep going the way I know I can, and hopefully that will bring out the best results possible.
Excellent work. Now, in the village itself, do you room with people? Do you get accommodation when there's a few of you in there, or do you get a singular sort of room depending on when your event is?
Well, in London we had apartment style living,
Yep.
so we sort of had high-rise apartments. So we had eight girls in our apartment, so rooms of 2.
Yep.
So I roomed with my training partner, Melissa Breen, and that will be the case again in Rio.
Oh,
if
excellent.
we're both on the team. But
Yep.
Sally Pearson was in our apartment in 2012, and that was actually really awesome to see. I guess the transformation. She's such a down-to-earth girl and very driven, and she had a lot of pressure on her in London because she was, the gold medal favourite. And she'd kind of said to us a few days before our event, she sort of said, "Girls, if I turn into an absolute cow, don't be offended.
Yeah.
I'm just doing what I've got to do." And we're like, "Sal, you're probably going to win the gold medal. Like, it's totally fine."
Yeah.
So that was just awesome. And, we'd sit in the lounge room watching the swimming, and she'd be cheering for all the Aussies. And, it's just a cool way to, I guess, chill with the rest of your teammates, but also see the way they conduct themselves off the track.
Yeah, excellent work. So you're rooming with like for like. So the athletes room together. Other sports would room with their thing. There's no mix and match. Do you get out? Do you get a chance to get out and support some of the other competitors outside of your own team? Do you mix and match? So do you go for a drink with the basketball girls, or do you go and have lunch with some of the guys in the sailing team and that kind of stuff? How is it in terms of cross-pollination across that team? Because to me, it seems you've got individuals who are focused on what they want to do in a team structure that are all focused on what they want to do and their discipline within a bigger team structure, which has it. So it's almost like an organisation, if it's almost like the public service, if I can go out and say that. You've got, these little enclaves of focusedness. But there is that harmonious and that link between, all representing Australia, all at the Olympics, all trying to do your best for the country. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the village is a unique place because you're walking amongst, previous Olympians, medalists, world champions. It's kind of surreal in a way, when Serena Williams or Kobe Bryant or Roger Federer are just chilling out in the dining hall. In terms of the Australians, I think we are one of the countries that have the biggest presence in the dining hall. And within the athletic team, I remember in London, we made up a game because everyone got trays and you got your food and you'd sit down and once you'd finished your meal, you would challenge somebody else who had also finished to paper, scissors, rock. And if you lost, you had to stack all of their stuff onto your tray.
Yep.
And I remember one of the rookies ended up with probably about 20 trays stacked high. And so we were just the loudest, like everyone was looking at us in the dining hall. So whilst we are, a team, I suppose, of individuals, we, I guess, have that presence in the dining hall generally. And because the Australian team overall is one of the bigger teams there, it is nice to sort of talk to other people from the other sports within Australia and go and watch them do their thing and compete. And it's a very unique experience, but it's a pretty awesome one to be able to see what people do and love what they do.
Yeah. Me and my friends, we play a game. Well, I insist that they play a game. We call it the $2 game, basically. So basically, when you're out in a big group of people, you get $2 if you see a celebrity lookalike, and only 50 cents if you actually see a celebrity. So you're always looking around for people who look like a celebrity. There's no money ever exchanged of hands. It's all worked out in karmically how much you sort of get, but you add it up. It sounds like at the Olympic Village, you guys would be getting 50 cents everywhere. So there's that many. So it's a galaxy of stars, both athletic as well as outside, where the greater celebrity population seems to be attracted as well. Have you ever been starstruck and met somebody there, and you just went, "Oh my God, that's so and so"? You mentioned some big names there.
Yeah, I haven't in the village, I think because I try to remember that I'm one of them. You know, I'm an Olympian just like they are. And then I try to think if I was in their position and constantly being asked for photos and autographs, whilst it is fun sometimes, it probably would get a little bit overwhelming. However, on Sunday last week, I actually did a photo shoot for Burley Bras, as they're an affiliated sponsor of the Australian Institute of Sport, and Serena Williams was there.
Oh, okay.
And so we got to chat with her and have some photos done with her. And that was actually really awesome because she was the one who's kind of fangirling. She said that at the Olympics, she's the one that goes around collecting all the pins from people. So we said in Rio that we'll be looking for her to swap some pins with. So it was actually really cool just to hear that, you know, they are normal people like us and that they get a little bit starstruck too. And I just wanted to remember that, she's a normal person like us, and I wanted to treat her that way. So hopefully that was something refreshing for her.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm probably sure it was, and she would definitely remember you, that's for sure. So make sure you look. Yeah, exactly right, if she's there and thereabouts. Lauren, thanks so much for coming in today. It's been a real honour and a real pleasure to have you in here and hear about the insights of your preparations for Rio and, you know, the life of an athlete.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome.
No problem at all.
Yeah, if there's anyone out there who wants to sort of follow the road to Rio for me, you can check out my website, which is just laurenwells.com.au, or follow me on Twitter, Loz_Wells.
Excellent work. We certainly will be. We'll be looking forward to doing that and cheering you on.